I'm Rob Williams. I'm a contributing editor to MediaPost, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our next session, which is titled DTC News, Growing the Next Paid Product Mix. So for the next half hour or so, we'll be talking about strategies for publishers and content providers to grow sales from memberships, e-commerce, merchandise, events, and almost anything that helps your readers in some way, aside from providing them with great content. And so we'll also have a Q&A session. Steve will pop in about 25 minutes into this, and feel free to please ask a question. If you tap on the chat or the hand wave, you could ask a question that he'll pose for our panelists. And so with that, I'd like to introduce our panel, where we're going to provide their insights about direct-to-consumer sales. So first, let's welcome Jessica Sibley. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Rob. Good to see you.
Thanks. Jessica is Chief Revenue Officer at Forbes, where she's worked for the past 7 years. Before that, she held various sales, marketing, and publisher roles at Condé Nast, The Week, Business Week, as Bloomberg was buying it from McGraw-Hill, which I think is interesting. I remember that. I was at Bloomberg at the time. And you also worked at the Wall Street Journal. And with that, let's next welcome Josh Stinchcomb, Global Chief. Hi there, Josh. Josh is Global Chief Revenue Officer at the Wall Street Journal and Barron's Group, where he's worked for the past 3 years. And before that, Josh worked at Condé Nast, including Wired magazine. And so interesting, Josh and Jessica, you worked at Condé Nast at the same time, but at the Wall Street Journal at different times.
Hi, Josh. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you.
Yeah, we should grab a drink after this panel.
Absolutely.
And so just to prove that we're not completely focused on business media with Forbes and the Wall Street Journal, let's also welcome Natalie Vinard. Natalie is Vice President of Marketing at America's Test Kitchen, which has one of the best cooking shows on TV. I'm a bit biased. I just made a quiche last weekend. Don't judge. You're using your recipe. So before joining America's Test Kitchen 6 years ago, Natalie held a variety of sales and marketing roles at the Boston Globe. So thanks for being here, Natalie.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to open things up by asking each of you some more about your recent DTC efforts, starting with Jessica, because you actually have some news to break here, which I appreciate. You're announcing a new product called Forbes Demand Engine, a lead generation service for sales and marketing. And so please tell us more about that, how you came up with the idea and what some of your aspirations are for it.
Well, thanks, Rob, and thanks for MediaPost for having us at the summit. Josh, hi, nice to see you. And Natalie, great to meet you. And I know we'll be together soon in person, but it's great to be here virtually. And what a great topic to cover on direct to consumer and product innovation and product pivots. And for Forbes, for us, you know, we really do take the DTC approach with the consumer first. And so when we look at that, we look at consumers sort of in two categories. So first, consumers like our audiences, our communities at scale. We've been on this journey for a while at Forbes, and you know, the connectivity and the communities that we've built, sort of this club or membership, does align around a lot of our lists. So whether it's our, you know, most influential CMOs, our top CIOs, even our under 30 list members, our communities like Forbes, the culture, Black and Brown entrepreneurs and business professionals, our women's network. And just thinking about this panel, early days in the pandemic, you know, we started Slack channels, we started forums to bring these communities together. Not necessarily a paid product, but a way to facilitate critical conversations and make those connections and really share information and a little inspiration along the way. So that's sort of the first category of consumer. The second is, of course, our marketing partners, you know, our advertisers who we do business with, and the major source of our revenue at Forbes. And so along the way over the last year, you know, with the absence of in-person meetings and in-person events. We do so much business with technology companies, B2B companies, accounting, consulting, and they came to us really looking for leads because they weren't in person, making new connections or developing existing relationships. So thank you to MediaPost for allowing us to drop some news and make a little noise today about a new product. I think it's a great example for what we're talking about today, which is a subscription-based product, a DTC product, Forbes Demand Engine, where we're really working with marketers to productize an offering that is ongoing and a way for our marketers to really seek those guaranteed marketing qualified leads and to tap into our content, our studio, the data insights and resources that we have that we can leverage to help them drive their business and help them, until we, especially with the pivot to virtual taking a little bit of time, and I know we'll talk about that later on in the panel, but to really work with customers like leads as a service. So we're excited that you're working on this and focus on this with us. So thank you for that.
So the Forbes Demand Engine, is it a paid service? Or are there different paid tiers for it? Or does it work like a LinkedIn, let's say, where you can, at almost 6 degrees of separation, kind of generate leads that way?
Yeah, so we're looking at it as a paid subscription-based service. Obviously, every engagement will be very custom based on target audience, based on time frame. But it's a way to tap into our content, our studio, our data insights on an ongoing basis, on an efficient basis, a turnkey basis, to really generate and guarantee and nurture those leads to help our customers drive their business needs.
Okay. With that, I'd like to turn to Josh. Now, the Wall Street Journal, for the longest time, had a strong paywall. You were one of the first publications that just did not give away your content. So now you have 4 million paying members, including executives who pay for your WSJ Pro products. Could you tell us more about those, how they work? And I think you have some new products coming up too.
Yeah, sure. Now, Rob, well, thanks for having me, and Jessica, Natalie, great to be here with you guys and everyone watching. And with all due respect to my colleague at Forbes and my good friend Scott Havens, who I saw you just had on, I'll start with the fact that we reach more senior business decision makers than any business news company, full stop. And I think because we have the most, we know the most about them. And that scale and that understanding has been the foundation of a DTC business, to put it in those terms, that has been sort of front and center for us for over 20 years. To your point, we were a pioneer in digital paywalls, and that's the single biggest part of our business still today. And we're very proud of our ad business. It's a growing ad business, but we are first and foremost a DTC company, to use the parlance of the session here.
Right.
To your point, we think about building on that foundation of paying subscribers by super serving core communities. And that's identifying subsets of our audience and offering sort of incremental information, tools, analysis, et cetera, to help them do their jobs better. In essence, what we offer is decision-making facilitation. That's how we see our role in the world, to help people make better decisions. And if that's the lens through which you look at everything, you think, what are other things that we can offer that people will be willing to pay for to get decision-making insurance in essence? And so you mentioned Pro. These are existing sort of tranches of membership that are oriented toward specific job functions or practitioners in a specific area, like cybersecurity as an example. And those are both sort of incremental consumer revenue opportunities for us, sort of higher priced membership, if you want to look at it that way. But they also have a whole other host of benefits for our ad business and elsewhere. We are expanding that premise. A recent launch was something called Barron's Advisor. So Barron's is obviously one of our publications focused primarily on financial advisors. And we give them a lot of investment information, investment trends. We just launched a paywall product, sort of an incremental paywall product called Barron's Advisor, which is actually practice management information. So helping advisors build their businesses giving them coaching and allowing them to benchmark themselves against other advisor firms to actually build their advisor practice. And so again, that is a service to our readers. It's a paid service to our readers, but it's beyond the news, as it were. Another example, our councils, which facilitate peer-to-peer interactions, which are also helpful in facilitating decision-making. And so we're able to become a platform for that kind of activity and find incremental revenue streams. And, there's a whole host of examples. We just launched, I think Scott Havens at Bloomberg mentioned sort of a job summit. We had a Wall Street Journal job summit this year. It was sort of a beta project. We had about 20,000 people come, but already our sort of head is spinning with ideas on sort of reinventing the job fair and what that could mean for DTC offerings, both for job seekers and job offerers. So, very much thinking about communities on top of our core membership and how we help them make better decisions, and in the process, offer products that they'll pay for.
Okay. And so let's see, I also want to give Natalie a chance to talk too. With America's Test Kitchen, I think it's interesting with you that most of your revenue actually comes from memberships. You don't have a very big advertising business, as I understand it, although that may be growing as you branch out into streaming media and some of the newer video on demand channels like Pluto TV and Roku. And what I also thought was interesting is that you also have a subscription box. And for people who aren't familiar with that business model, it's almost like Birchbox or BarkBox, where you pay a monthly or semi-monthly subscription to have products delivered to you. So I was curious to hear more about that, Natalie.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Rob. And I'm excited to join the panel with Justin and Josh. Nice to meet you both. What we have launched is interesting because we went into the kids cookbook business, really is where we were trying to reach a younger audience. And there really was a gap in really educational and high quality kids cookbooks. So we started with Young Chefs Club, which became a New York Times bestseller. It's on its 105th week, I think, on the New York Times bestseller list. And what the box you're referencing is called the Young Chefs Club box. And it's 2 years of delivery to children, be it 8 to 12. And every month you receive a box with an experiment around food with recipes and really based on STEAM. So it's really the foundation of America's Test Kitchen is to teach. And this is just, starting that around food. And we also did cookbooks that were a little bit younger on my first cookbook. And then also a baking book that followed the Young Chefs Club. So we also launched a podcast for kids, and Mystery Recipe is on season 2 of its and has, I think over 1 million downloads. So very successful podcasts, and podcasts have been an area where we had extended for our core brands as well, just the year prior. So kids, we really feel like is an area of growth for us. And the subscription boxes are new, but they were, I think, the right product for that age group and for the engagement that we were looking for. And different than our core sites, our kids' recipes are actually free. So we have that available to that audience. And for the core sites, that's where our core membership is recipes and our equipment ratings and things like that.
So with the subscription box, did that actually launch before the pandemic? Because just looking at the trends, there was a massive amount of interest in home cooking with everyone stuck at home, baking bread, that kind of thing. And then also with kids, I've also seen a lot of interest on social media like TikTok with these trends that emerge out of nowhere, like whipped coffee and nature's cereal and that kind of thing. So I was just kind of curious, how you came up with the idea and what kind of growth you saw during the pandemic.
Yeah, so it was a very timely launch. It launched the October prior. So it did see a lot of growth. Around holiday, it's really a gifting, a high gift product. And then when we did see a big increase with people just really looking for things to do at home with their kids. You're in a unique situation where they're not going to school and, they have to stay occupied. So we did see some interest there. And then we are also continue to see interest as we, come out of, I think, as people start to find some semblance of normalcy and a balance. But we are going into summer too. So we start to see things pick up as kids go into summer vacation or winter vacation and things like that. So there's certainly some seasonality and definitely, like our core business, is a big increase in home cooking. I think people shifted from, oh, it's a nice skill to have, to, oh, we might need this life skill. Like this might be really good to have at some point. So.
Okay. Well, let's see. So the next topic I'd like to get to with all of you are just some of your strategies for boosting engagement, reducing churn, what some of the biggest challenges you face and how you overcome them. Starting with you, Jessica, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, look, it means something to be on a Forbes list, and that doesn't expire. There's no churn in that. Once you're named, one of the most influential CMOs, a top ranked CIO, an under 30 list member, to build those communities, to keep those communities growing year over year globally. That's been a great business model for us to convene those conversations virtually over the last year and move into in person. I would say when we look at product innovation and how we continue to kind of keep those communities engaged, there's a couple things that we're doing that are really exciting. So we're building a profile business. So similar to having, a LinkedIn profile, we really started with our financial advisor community. So to be a top ranked by Forbes financial advisor, next gen, best in state, top women advisor, to create a community and profiles where you actually can opt in at 3 different levels, similar to a LinkedIn profile. Certainly this is more significant because it comes with the credibility and the authority of a Forbes ranking. It comes with the scale, the search algorithm, and to be able to have that as your kind of virtual profile that you can update on a regular basis based on any of your rankings, based on any of your education, based on any thought leader things that you've written and done in your careers. We've really invented and really reinvented a way of referrals and, making new customers and solidifying existing ones. So that's really exciting for us. We're exploring that across so many different lists that we have. And there's no churn in that business. So it keeps you engaged and it keeps you connected to the Forbes brand and Forbes content as well.
Oh, well, so what do you think about that, Josh? Investment advisors in a community.
No, it's I'd love to be on a Forbes list. Churn is a big topic for us, obviously, as it is for, I think, any subscription business. And at the highest level, you try to avoid churn by being useful, continuing to be more useful. But more practically, we do look for specific signals that could be leading indicators or highly correlated with churn or the likelihood to churn.
Really?
And make investments to mitigate those risks. So, for example, we know at the Wall Street Journal, one of the best ways to mitigate churn is to increase active days per month of a given user. And so a lot of our product innovations are around increasing active days. And so that's things like encouraging people for newsletter signups or other kinds of sort of push notification signups. We allow people to follow reporters or follow topics or their favorite opinion contributor. So when there's something new, they're getting a sort of a ping and a pull back to the site. So that's worked really well for us. We launched a new feature about a year ago, maybe slightly less, called Read to Me, where any article in the journal can be sort of played as an audio file, someone sort of reading you the story, been hugely successful, far beyond our expectations with our members. Again, see a high correlation between users of that and people who don't churn. The next innovation of that product is that you can actually make a Spotify sort of playlist now of articles. So you're going for a run and you say, here's the 15 articles I want to sort of have read to me, on this commute or this run. And so, constantly tweaking the platform and the products in this instance to increase active days, which in turn reduces churn. But, it's, as everyone on this panel knows, it's hard to acquire new customers, but it's equally important to think about holding on to existing ones if you want to grow your base.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of audio products. I think it's a great way to leverage your content in other areas. With everyone with a smartphone now, it's a portable format. People can listen to it while they're doing something else. And I agree. I think that's a really compelling opportunity. So with you, Natalie, too, I'd like to hear more about how you boost engagement at America's Test Kitchen, reduce churn. What are some of the challenges you see?
Yeah, I think we have a mix. Some of the things that we had to do, we have multiple products, multiple subscription products that people are signed up for. So one of the most important things was to be able to get a single view of that customer. So we have been doing a pretty intense data migration to Axiom and working with them as a partner the past year. And that's a migration that is interesting to do via Zoom. We kicked that off at the beginning of the pandemic. But we're past that now, and we're going to use that data to understand the behaviors of our customers and what's most important. But we also look at newsletters and trying to drive that daily habit, similar to what Josh was saying, because we have found that people are either coming to us, for that big event, like a celebration or something, or they're coming to us for the holiday where like you really don't want to mess up, or it's your first holiday, or things like that. So as we try to expand past those events to a more regular visit, we look at what that engagement could be through newsletters, and also topics that are, more, we have a whole suite of books that we publish, and our books are usually on content that's different from our site sometimes. So an example of that would be, we just did a plant-based cookbook. So is there something that we could do around the plant-based recipes to drive engagement or to bring people back to the site? So, whatever topics are most relevant at that time, using them to bring people back to the site.
Okay. And at America's Test Kitchen, do you do any kind of live event programming?
We had a food festival. So we had we had a food festival that was really unique, where you could come to our space and you could actually go into the kitchens and see all of the test cooks and see all of everybody that's on the shows, and also have local restaurants doing a whole tasting. So we had those run for 2 years, but we haven't translated that into any virtual events really. So
that brings me to Josh. Let's see, you have Wall Street Journal, you run around 200 events a year, is that correct? And I'm just curious, how did the pandemic change that business? And what are some of the lasting effects that you expect to see forward, either in hybrid events or people's willingness to come back to events? What's the outlook for that?
Yeah, well, no, it didn't change it at all. No, just kidding. Yeah, it completely turned our event business inside out. As you can imagine, it's a big part of what we do. It's a big part of how we add value to the communities, as I mentioned. And we had to go entirely virtual like the rest of the world. And, learned quickly, failed fast, all the things that I think, you hear a lot about in the virtual event space. But I can say we sort of came out of it with a much better margin business and a lot of learnings that we'll clearly take with us as we kind of go back to live or to hybrid. It's the most likely probably new normal. The couple of things that sort of I can share that we sort of learned and hope to continue. The first was, in a virtual world, our ability to get access to great talent from all over the world was enhanced because there weren't the logistics of having to get someone somewhere. The same for audience members. The number of countries represented at our events was like 10x, I think, what it was probably in a pre-pandemic world, which is really exciting, as was the just total number of attendees.
Right.
You also have, as you do in any digital product, a much better sort of analytical capability. So you can really understand who went to what event and how long they stayed. And that tells us a lot about what's working, but also subsets of our attendees and what they're interested in. And so our marketing for future events is a lot smarter now because we know exactly sort of what people spent their time doing. And so those kinds of things, I think we want to bring forward with us, as well as the sort of reduced cost profile of virtual events. But, we are, optimistic about the desire to return to real life. You're seeing it already happening this summer, I think, at least in the United States. We anticipate doing our first sort of hybrid event this fall. But I think, again, the learning is, I think the in-person is going to have to be a really great, rich experience, for people to get on a plane or whatever it is to go there and interface. But then there are going to be ways to stream out portions of it or pull people in from far-flung places. And so I think hybrid is the new model, and hopefully we retain much, if not all of that margin gain and get the top line growing again. But this was a really, I think, important year in our sort of event story. And when we look back, we'll probably be glad we went through it, at least from an event perspective. So remains a hugely important part of our business. It is the place where, as Jess said earlier on, brands are looking for lead gen. They want to find customers, interact with customers, and events are an incredibly effective way to do that. And so for B2B advertisers in particular, it is a must-have part of the mix, and continue to be for us.
Okay, Jessica, this same question about how the pandemic changed your strategy, what you see going forward, not necessarily with live events, but other aspects of your business.
Yeah, I mean, I would just share a lot of what Josh just spoke about. We went through sort of the same experiences and sort of came out on the same side of the business. And I would say, for Forbes, the only thing to add is, Josh, I so respect and appreciate the Journal, having worked there for many years, and who you reach and how you reach an incredible audience. I mean, for Forbes, where we differentiate is we reach a similar audience, but we reach more women than men now on Forbes.com. We reach more millennials that matter, the younger segments. We reach more of the underrepresented groups, especially with everything that we've done on the editorial side to really focus and cover on, Black and brown entrepreneurs and so many others. So we're really proud of that. And I think when we look at our business, we can't look at everybody the same. And so when we look at our events business or our content business, we look at it by those segments and by those communities and those individuals, those audiences that we reach. So for example, women, we stuffed 400 in a room at Pier 60 in New York City. When we went virtual, we had, 20,000 being able to tune into our event. A lot more inclusive. And I think going forward, with our women's audience, like some people want to be there in person, but some find remote, based on home needs or childcare needs or whatever it is, that opportunity to have either in person or remote or virtual is very compelling. With the younger segments, with our under 30s, they cannot wait. They're the first ones to get on planes. They're the first ones to travel. And those meaningful moments to be together in person matter more. So I think for us, it's like, and that's how we look at all of these different audiences. We listen to them, we learn from them, and we really try to customize and fit based on what we're hearing and what, is the most valuable for them.
Yeah, I've read research on that as far as how the pandemic changed the way people work and flexible work arrangements, and the huge effect it's had on women in particular. And there's a lot of talk about women kind of leading the way to the recovery with flexible work arrangements. So have you seen some of that?
Yeah, we have. And I would say it's not just a women's issue. It's anyone who is taking care of someone else. And that could be, I had to take care of a parent this year. Dads are parents too. You might have a friend, a neighbor. So, I just think that there's a lot we want to forget from this pandemic. And there's a lot we want to really remember and keep. And some of that is hybrid flexibility. And I was never personally a work from home, a small apartment in New York City, which is not where I am now, but I've really come to realize how people can do great work anywhere, anytime, remotely. And look, we're still together. I feel like I'm seeing you right now and we're spending time together. So with technology and just, again, new formats, I think there'll be a lot of good outcomes from the hardships of the last year.
Great. So now, Natalie, looking ahead, what kinds of opportunities do you see? What's on your calendar for this year and beyond? Specifically with direct to consumer, I know that's the focus of your business anyway, but.
Yeah, no, happy to. I think what Jess said was just so important to remember of what everyone's been going through the past year. So thank you for saying that. And I think one of the things that we've been most excited about is the access people have had to America's Test Kitchen over the past year. So we launched on 9 OTT platforms over the past year, and we had been limited to public television, and you had to, you could only see us when our season was airing, and this is just a whole new place for us. So we're super excited about more people being aware of America's Test Kitchen, and to be, on Pluto and on IMDb and all of the other partners that we have. Roku was the most recent one to launch. So that's just a total change in audience access for us that we're really, really excited about. And we've been on YouTube with a lot of our programming, and that's been, hugely popular. So this next year is just really going to be about what happens with people having more access to the shows.
And so America's Test Kitchen, I know you're a big part of your show is product reviews, but you don't really want to get into merchandising, as I understand it, right? That's really not where you're headed as far as, I don't know, doing licensing your name to various kitchen products and other cooking ingredients.
Yeah, one of the core parts of our value is our unbiased reviews for kitchen equipment, and I think you'll see us expand outside of that category, especially with the kids business, and try and test some other things that are related to home or tangential to the category. We've done just some licensing. We just did some really beautiful prints that are from the back of our magazines. And if you're familiar, we have beautiful illustrations by John Burgoyne that we have in our shop. And then we also have some glasses and some, aprons and things like that. So I don't know, what expansion of that holds, but right now they're more things you would expect to have in your home that, just have, things that are iconic to what our brands have been.
Okay. Yeah, and that just brings me to the final topic, and I see Steve is there. We'll bring you into this. Just about, with e-commerce, I think even, companies like Facebook and Google, which have, big growing digital ad businesses, recognize that the digital ad marketplace is going to mature rapidly in the next decade, and that they need to get into e-commerce, seeing a threat from Amazon, et cetera. But I was kind of curious too, for you, Josh, and next, Jessica, just what opportunities you see either for affiliate sales or let's say licensing or other kinds of e-commerce opportunities. Starting with you, Josh.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of the byproducts, obviously, of reaching a lot of executives is you have a wealthy population who spends a lot of money. And as we saw over the past year in particular, people's interest in spending that online has just accelerated to a point where, it's hard to ignore the potential opportunity. And Forbes actually done a really nice job, with e-commerce for some time now. We have, I would say, dabbled in the space. We have a a program called WSJ Plus, which is sort of a member benefit that does special offers. We've got a wine club that's been quite successful for us. So
Right.
it's a space where we're looking at for sure. We have a really sort of lovely sub brand in WSJ, which is a monthly magazine and digital and event platform that does specifically address the sort of lifestyle, luxury lifestyle interests of our readers. And so, yeah, more to come on that for sure.
Okay. And I'll close out with you, Jessica. Same question on e-commerce, and then we'll turn things over to Steve.
Yeah, we've always had a really big sort of luxury segment. And as you know, Josh mentioned, work hard, kind of play hard, and have a lot of disposable income. For us, we've had a lot of fun in the last few years with like a click to buy, click to book approach. So whether that's Forbes vetted, which is again, all editorial led, well-researched, time to the market or seasonal shopping, whether it be one of our newsletters like my favorite, which lands on Fridays from our editor, Michael Solomon, Passport, all the great places that you can travel for fun, for business, great bars, restaurants, and you can literally just read and then book. So we're having a lot of fun with this business as well. And we're seeing incredible results. However you'd measure, click-throughs or affiliate sales, growing our team from, just 2 to, 22 in the last few months. So
Really? Okay.
We're going to continue to explore and expand on, and we're seeing, it's all performance based. So we're seeing the results there.
Good. Okay, that's great. I'd like to thank all of you, Jessica, Josh, Natalie, and I'll turn it over to Steve for the Q&A.
Yeah, guys, I have a couple of very quick questions. First of all, Josh, where are we in terms of for the basic WSJ subscription product? You mentioned you're at 4.5 million now. You've been doing this though. Wall Street Journal has been doing this for like more than 20 years. Because I remember covering you guys when it was Wall Street Journal, Playboy, and Consumer Reports were the only three that even hit radar when it came to subscriptions. Have you plateaued? What's the rate of growth there? Is it have you reached your peak in the market?
Yeah, no, not even close. We think, we think the total addressable market for what we do, and it's not just the Wall Street Journal, it's Wall Street Journal, Barron's, and now Market Watch has actually launched a paywall as well. We recently acquired Investors Business Daily. That's a paywall product. So the addressable market, even in just the US, I think gives us a ton of white space for growth. We saw some of the fastest, if not the fastest, growth rate in our membership this past year that we've seen in the entire history of the journal. And so we are accelerating in terms of membership growth, and at the same time diversifying the sort of membership tranches, as I discussed. And so it's an exciting time to be in the news and information business. As the world gets more complex, I think they need publishers like us and Forbes and Bloomberg even more. And so we see this as a sort of a renaissance, if you will, for what we do.
And Natalie, about some of these free brand extensions like podcasting and OTT and streaming media and YouTube, are you able to quantify the ways in which those channels are actually helping you build the paid base? Or is that something that you're sort of doing more on guesstimates, or is there actually a kind of a metric there?
We're on our path to it. It's like one of the near-term goals that we have to be able to measure it more effectively. Right now, the podcast, Proof is in its 7th season, so we have a lot more indicators on our podcast Proof of who's visiting and that traffic there, and how different they are. And we know that the YouTube audience is very different, skews more male than our core audience does, and our TikTok audience skews much younger in their visiting. So we know areas of it, but not as unified as we'd hope. And that's one of the things that we're looking to be able to have in, the next 12 months or so.
Well, Rob, Jessica, Natalie, Josh, thanks so much. Great discussion.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.